What can people do in a daily practice to help? Or is there nothing that we can do to help? Give us some hope.
Well, certainly to read the field it's more difficult now. It doesn't go through in a fluidic manner like before. And there is nothing we can do in a global way, thinking about the situation, the organic or physical situation of the war. But what we can do is to start with ourselves, to try to reconcile our spiritual and physical and emotional selves and realign within ourselves in order to solidify and reconsolidate our link with the spiritual axis. And when we feel that this will bring some energy within our tension and our heart and our brain and in our field, then we start to feel stronger. Then eventually we can think about a situation far away, a situation which is a suffering situation like the war actually, and maybe we have enough chi to send peace and good energy in this part of the world. But if we don't prepare ourselves to be strong in our central axis, just to sit down, meditate, and send peace doesn't do anything. So it's always the same conditionment or setup. We have to realign ourselves very strongly with the axis to pretend, to hope that we can realign or send chi to a bad situation in this part of the world that is needed of vision and help. And when you feel good enough within your central axis, when you internalize this chi, you exteriorize it through your aura, and then you eventually can send it. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. What is your morning practice that might have changed? Do you say something differently now because of the war? Do you send peace? Do you bring more peace into your body?
I do the same practice, except that I now redirect it instead of direct it only to the people of the Academy and the accomplishment of our work for the Academy, for the good of the people that are seeking for this kind of knowledge. I extend it to the situation now where there is a need of hope and energy. So if everybody is practicing the same like we do in the Academy and realign, and all together we send this chi, it may be the only way we can do something if it has an effect.
So what are you sending? Words?
Yeah, I send
Light?
I send an image. I send peace. I send light, and I visualize a peaceful situation with no tank, no troops. I empower the people that work for their freedom. I send chi, and I visualize putting Putin leading back and neutralize himself in a no man's land. I don't know what to say. I try to send him the message to stay quiet and back off his bad action, because it doesn't lead to goodness and to any kind of victory, not for himself and not for the world. I think Macron was right in his message. He said to Putin, "You are lying to yourself." And it was a very smart and very agile thought. Instead to be just aggressive, he said, "You are lying to yourself," meaning to think that you do good for Russia or good for the world by killing people. So we send a message of peace. We have to visualize the light until it's so strong that peace can come back.
You were born during World War II.
Yeah.
And is there a lot of memory coming up?
Well, I was born in the middle of World War II, so the fear of the siren just strangled my throat, and that's why I have this surgery at 1 or 2 years old. So when you are a baby, you are just afraid, but you don't even know you are afraid. You are just stressing inside. That what these events created in myself a very strong alertness that everything I do has to be really fast, and I'm always ready to go with a little backpack, like I'm ready for war. He empowered my Shaoyang aspect, which is the fast mind to save your life. That's what it did at my young age. And that's what probably he will do to the young children of Ukraine that are listening to bombing, siren, airplane, and that are obliged to run in a cave to avoid to be killed. So
what is the message that you give to the generations who have never been through war that are watching this? What is the warning that you have for the world?
This reaction is a visceral reaction. It's from a gut reaction. If you have never been to a war, you have been sleepy. Like, let's say in America, you have a golden childhood with no fight, no war. But so you are never ready to act fast because it's not in your gene. So the message will be the same. You have to be volunteer to be in your central axis, to practice, to be present and very aware of all what's around you. And that's what the practice, the main practice of what we teach in Tama-Do is. We are teaching sound, color, and movement healing. We are teaching the way of the soul to the light, but there is no emergency when we never have been in the middle of a war, so we don't feel it the same. So we have to go through different difficulty in life, which is like the difficulty to live in couple, difficulty to have children, the difficulty to advise children who are a different generation. But it's not a war, it's like a little internal combat of everyday life. And that's how the people prepare themselves to life.
So are you saying that the Tama-Do students should be aware of the bad in the world?
They should be aware that not everything is golden light. And there is dark, shadow, and there is light.
But we don't teach that in Tama-Do, we teach the light.
We teach the light because why we teach the light? Because we need to be aware that dark could be around. And like now, the paroxysm of the dark is the war. Is somebody like Putin killing civilians for no reason? Because if he really wanted peace, he will have talked to the president of Ukraine and make an arrangement. You don't come to peace with a sword and cut the head of the people and then talk about peace after, because when you are dead, nobody can talk. So it's, I think Putin is sick and he's lying to himself. Macron was right. He thinks that he's going to be the master of the world by bombing and fearing the people of nuclear weapon, and nothing good will come from that. He will die himself first because Americans will retaliate immediately, and that will be the end of the planet. I think we have to teach the people to be present, to be alert, to be in the moment, because the light acts in the moment. When the sun shines in the morning, if first you go to the sun and connect with the sun and say to the sun, thank you to open for me the phenomenal world that I can step in action and realize my life. It's last a moment of chi that you can record, and when the sun goes off, this moment disappears. So there is a momentum in life, like there is a momentum during one day, or one moment. And that's where the teaching of the Academy is so precise. We have to respect the timing when the light is available for us to take, when we can talk to the energy field, when we can talk to the divine, when we can talk to our angel when it's time to do so, when we can talk to ourselves by rising up our energy, and it's more and more precise. If we remind ourselves the timing of the circulation of the energy in the body in 24 hours, it follows what we call the circadian rhythm and the meridian energy. In the morning, we receive energy in certain parts of the body. So when we practice our Qigong and give the emphasis or priority to this part of ourselves, we empower this organ. At noon, if I practice Qigong, I empower another part of myself. In the late afternoon, if I practice Qigong, I empower another part of myself. So there is a scientific and organic and energetic consciousness to have for ourselves in life. And when we teach people for our day, when we teach in the morning, we don't teach the same as the afternoon. The morning is good to receive and to clarify and to spray out a plan of action. afternoon is good for action, we cannot think anymore, because as soon as the sun starts to go down at noon, the mind don't receive the same quality of chi as you receive at dawn, when the sun show up and empower your physical, etheric brain and spiritual brain. So there is a timing that we teach in Tama-Do, which is exactly the same timing that is required through the different technique that we teach. That's why there is so many different techniques of sound, color, and movement in Tama-Do. And when we teach in the morning or in a season a technique more appropriate according with the pathology or with the diagnosis that we have from the energetic diagnosis, etheric and physical of the people, we choose to use this technique or this technique. We choose to use sound, color, and movement in a certain way. Like there is a moment where sound is more preponderant, some moment where color will be more preponderant, that means more accurate, and moment where sound and color are in low burner, and we just act physically with the movement to wake up a different part of the engine, the physical and etheric engine that propel, that starts the fire in us. And suddenly, by starting, for example, with movement, we add the sound and we add the color, and slowly the trilogy, the triad, sound, color, and movement make complete sense to consolidate the central axis to the light. And that's what we need to teach to the people. We need to teach that to the students, to the kids. It's a way of life. We don't parachute ourselves suddenly doing Qigong, isolated for doing Qigong. We don't parachute ourselves just to look like teaching or use color because we like color, or make music because we like music. We have to use it for the power that is appropriate and in the appropriate time. Besides that, we can also get crazy and make a nice concert and use everything and enjoy music, enjoy color, enjoy movement, like ballet, dance, movement, creativity with art, with color, and singing. But when we talk about unifying the energy in the time of crisis, we need to have the structure of sound, color, and movement very tight, close to us, building physical, etheric, astral, mental, causal, etc., all the subtle energy to consolidate.
When you're looking at the global cycles of the world, which you do with astrology, with cosmology,
Yeah.
do you feel that the cycle today empowers those of us that are working for the light? Is this a moment for light workers, or is this a moment for war?
There is never a moment for war. All movement in the world, all movement of the constellation are always in action. Action doesn't mean necessarily war or battle. Action is just movement. It is true that there is sometimes opposition between two planet body, like Mars-Pluto or Mars-Uranus, Mars-Saturn, that can create a tension, but it's not necessarily bad. This tension is here to wake us up in case we fall asleep with the moon and Neptune and Venus and the love story of the sky. And suddenly there is a tension between two strong planets, and we don't need to put the clothes of negative or battle or war. It's just a wake-up call of certain tension happening in the world. So he attracts your attention and you are mobilized to look more precisely of what's happening. So you do the same things, but you modulate. You tune with the passage that woke you up, and you transform this tension in something, in a powerful aspect that you can use positively. And that's what we have to do. There is no bad aspect.
So it wasn't programmed right now that
No.
there needed to be war. It was
No,
not required.
There is periodically, since my grandmother was talking about the comet that was going to fall on the earth and this and that, there is moment where there is tension. And this is required to wake up the soul that sometimes may fall asleep. You cannot fall asleep because you have a nice house, a nice garden, a nice income, and a nice family, because at some point you fall asleep. And you have to be careful that the world is day and night, cold and hot. And so you have to be ready to straighten up and to be in balance. When it's cold outside, you put a jacket or you warm up more. When it's very hot, you take off your clothes and you move less. So there is some moment in the world where the luminary or the astronomy or the astrology teach you, or there is some tension coming up, but it's not necessary to be bad. It's just a tension to wake up the brain, because what's happening in the golden age, when we'll be on the top of the Vishnanubi, according with the Indian tradition, when we are on the top of the golden age, why we recycle and suddenly we go down, 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 to the point where they call the opposite of the golden age was in the history what we call Kali Yuga. It's because we fall asleep. When you are in heaven and you need to eat, you pick up a fruit of a tree in the street, you don't need to work. People are all loving, people are all nice. You need to meet a nice girl or a nice man, and then you meet them in the streets. You fall in love, you have babies, it's an enchantment. But suddenly the luminary creates a tension. So say, oh, okay, that's fine. You have program and pick up, you have record the image of golden age, but there is a movement in the tension of two strong planets that can be important for you to wake up and remember that if you fall asleep, then the negativity without consciousness will destroy your heaven. So consciousness, to be aware, is a necessity, required, some tension sometime. But if you practice some current movement and Tao Yin Fa like we do in the academy, you are aware on the top of action. You don't fall asleep. It's not because you are happy to the sky that you should fall asleep. You have always to be present. If I have to name the main quality of a God or a divine being or not being beyond our understanding, will be the eternal active presence, consciousness, awareness of balance. You are aware of everything. You don't fall asleep. It's the eternal presence, which means it doesn't need tension, it doesn't need softness, he is always present. And that's what we feel when we invoke Archangel, like Metatron, Sandalphon, Raphael. The great Archangel, they are always on top of action. That's why the symbol is a sword or an arrow, because they are always ready to balance what is not. An angel in the hierarchy of the spirituality may be more soft and more caring in the mind of the people, because why we call angel? Angel, just the name, angel. When we say arc, there is a k, which is explosion of energy or appearance of energy in the sky or in the energy field around us, that required a different central axis, a different awareness that give you this stand, this straight central axis, that you have to be vigilant.
A bad actor like Putin, is he savable?
He will go, unfortunately, through a kind of a hell of, internally, a hell of a life, even if he doesn't show it. And some people are unsolvable. You see, some people you cannot help, because if the amount of dark go beyond 50% or 75% in the human being, there is nothing you can do. You have to let him die. But as we know, nobody dies in the light. We have to let him recycle. And in life means he has to die. But the archangel doesn't care of that, because the archangel are the sword that cut through the fog, like you say, Terres and Unsoeld, in your teaching. And I really appreciate this sentence, because it means what it means. The balance is required, and when the unbalance toward the dark go too far, if you go beyond 75-80%, there is nothing you can do. Because in one lifetime, there is that much chi that you can have in your own life to recover from what is bad toward what is good. Sometimes you don't have enough energy to recover, and then you are done with this life and you have to be recycled.
So you're not a pacifist. It's you or the dark.
I am deeply pacifist, but in a higher spiritual level. To let people die because they have to be recycled, it is to be pacifist in the spiritual level. That means pacifist is to be realistic. If my body cannot bend to tie my shoes, if I can turn my head left and right, if I cannot lift my arm to do Qigong, if I cannot see in front of me, if I cannot hear, if my body starts to decay to the point where 80 or 90% of my function are negative, then I have to realign with the reality and say, okay, time to recycle. And I should not put any emotion in that, otherwise I go against my belief. But the deep belief should be set up at the beginning of life, that nobody die in the light.
If they are in the light.
We are supposed to be in the light when we are born. The influence of the parents and the society and the bad teacher in the institution put the dark in the golden little flame of a baby.
So Putin started as a little golden child, like everyone.
Putin is a nice child that probably was a child of the light, and for some reason he has bad influence, maybe bad family life, and some people put in his mind that he has to be strong and has to to be stronger than the next person, to overcome and to be better, and then it turned wrong.
So what do you do if you face somebody bad, 90% bad, who wants to take your life?
I will fight for my life. I will fight for my life if I think it's my right and it's not for me time to die. If you describe a situation of war, if I am pushed to be in a war, I will be obliged to kill my enemy. I have to fight for my life. But I will not go to war deliberately to kill other people if I have no reason. I'm not a war person. I am not the more pacifist person inside. But I have a central axis that need to be respected. And the central axis is the awareness of what is right, what is wrong. And everybody has the same rights, no matter what color, what religion, what opinion you have. We all have the same chance, and we should take it. Life is strong enough as a teacher to teach us what I just said, that nobody dies in the light. And nobody has a right to say, because you are like this, because you think like that, because you look like that, you should not have access to that. Everybody has to access to the light. And everybody is holy in this sense. But if you want to cut my ear or my eyes or my head because I disagree with you, I will have to fight you because I don't agree with that. We have to respect what it is. And the mind, when political people decide drastic things like war or cutting off certain part of the population because they are not wanted or whatever, it's because they isolate their mind, their physical human brain, from the whole context of what is a holy, spiritual, enlightened man. A man is not just a brain. We are a whole piece of God incarnate into a physical body. When you say a prayer, what I call the prayer of Jacques, who was a good friend of mine in south of France, and you say, the perfect power that is in me know exactly what to do and how to do it. If I have consciousness of what this means, what means the perfect power that is in me, if it's not the divine itself, what it is, nothing else. So if you realize that you have in you the spark of the divine, you are divine. So the perfect power which is in me knows, the divine knows what to do. So this part of you inside of you yourself know what to do and how to do it. That means how you are going to make it. You just follow the principle of being realigned with the light. And in this, at this extent, light cannot die, never die. If it's inside of you or outside of you, the light never dies. And unfortunately, when we isolate a part of ourselves, the perfect power which is in me know exactly what to do and how to do it, means the total global divine consciousness. Now, if from this divine consciousness, let's say, have 7 or 8 stairs, 8 level, if you extract the brain and you start to feel with your brain, okay, I'm going to make a war here, I'm going to cut these people off, this and that. This is not the divine. Suddenly you extract a part of your human brain which becomes devil because it's only dark, only using intelligence without the light. You have to use the intelligence with the light. You don't separate. As soon as you separate things, you separate people, you separate ideology, you separate the country, you separate everything. Look at the animal world. They are not separate. A fox comes to your garden and eat a berry. You know exactly what berry to eat. He doesn't destroy the flower around. He just wants the berry. A deer comes and he likes to eat the flower. He doesn't care of the berry. So in the animal world, you see that everyone chooses one thing that they need and they leave the rest alone. And that's what we should do among human beings. My neighbor thinks that my tree disturbs his view on the sea. So what? Move your house on the right and then you can see the sea. You don't need to destroy the tree, because if you don't respect the nature, the nature don't respect you, and then you get sick. Everything is completely interconnected. We should not separate our consciousness, our divine gift, our perception. Everything should be one. And what is a symbol of this, or this, or this, or this? In all religion, you put your 5 elements of left, the body, with the 5 elements of right, the divine, together. And they unify. You are never more unified when you do this gesture. If it's in your meditation, if it's like this, whatever is your technical, doesn't matter. As soon as you do this, you are united. That means you are united with the highest purpose, the highest light. You cannot separate. And all the misery in the world comes from the fact that we separate the light from the body. We separate the brain from the other divine level of consciousness. And why people like music? Because music is all the notes, all the musical notes together, coming in harmony. Why we like all the color, from black to white, with all the rainbow? Because all the color together give you the spectrum of the universe, the filter. And we should never separate the color. We should never separate the sound. We should never separate the movements. A dancer doing qigong or ballet dance, it's the same. You harmonize all the movements like you harmonize the color, you harmonize the sound. Why we choose color, sound, color, and movement in Tama Do Academy is just because when it came to me at first, I was born a musician. So I say, okay, music will help me. Another one could do the same, born a painter, or born a dancer, or a martial artist. So suddenly you end up being a martial artist, a musician, a painter, or using color, and the harmony come back to you. You rebuild your divine self by looking at the nature. In the nature there is all color, all shape, all matter. And like you say, or your father used to say, we can only see the face of the divine in the nature. The nature gives you a feedback exactly of what the beauty, the perfect beauty of the divine is.
Thank you, Fabien.